What's up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to break down 3 powerful persuasion principles for you. Persuasion principles so powerful that you are probably under the influence of them right now, or at least you have been at some point today, and you have no idea about them, but they have dramatically influenced your actions and your behaviors just today. What we're going to do is we're going to flip them on the head though and work out how you can use them to your own advantage, practically in your day-to-day to get more out of your day, but also as well, maybe you can use them in your business, ethically of course, because they're very, very powerful persuasion principles. If you're new to this channel, hi, my name's Rob. Businesses and companies hire me to help them with persuasion and psychology. And I estimate I've added around about 100 million to various different companies in total throughout my time doing this. So I know a little bit about persuasion. Please excuse me for my voice today. I am losing it. I've been shouting at the top of my lungs all day. But let's get to it. Let's talk about these 3 persuasion principles. We're going to cover them in order. First one is authority bias. So to paint you the picture about what authority bias is, I'm going to tell you a bit of a story. So a few years ago, I was in a job in an office, and in this office, they've got this, giant shared kitchen, which everyone uses. It's Monday morning, and on Monday morning, I am making my coffee, right? And I look up and this guy walks into the kitchen, and this guy is a few levels above my position, right? I've spoken to him briefly a few times. I'm stirring my coffee like this, and I turn to him, I'm like, hey man, how's it going? How was your weekend, right? And he looks at me and goes, fine. Blanks me, walks out of the kitchen, walks off. And I think to myself, not a lot, to be honest with you. I think he's probably busy, it's Monday morning, he's probably dreading his life at the moment, and he just hasn't got time to chat because he needs to get to his desk and open his emails. Anyway, I left the kitchen, and as I left the kitchen, I looked and watched him walk to the other end of the office. And he spotted a guy who was a few levels above him. And he suddenly burst into this massive extroverted character. And I could hear him from where I was stood. He was like, oh, how's it going, mate? How's your weekend? Oh, tell me more about this, blah, 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 blah. And at that very moment, I felt a little bit disrespected. I was like, this guy has no time for me whatsoever. He doesn't care about me. He had no respect in asking about my day. Instead, he saved up all of his talking time for this person who's a few levels above him or a level above him, right? And I wonder what was going on there. I'll tell you what was going on there in a few moments. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to walk you through the authority principle and how that works and everything. So what the authority bias is the bias in human beings that we have the tendency to look to authority figures and experts and work out what they are doing and then comply with whatever they say. And there's been a lot of experiments on this, which has showed that humans, as much as they deny it, comply generally to people who they view as authority figures. So here's an example of where this might happen to you on a day-to-day basis. So picture this, if you had a random homeless person come up to you in the street and he says, if you take this pill that I'm about to give you right now, you will live to 100 years old. I guarantee it. It's worked for all of my friends, and you just need to do that. And I guarantee you will live to 100 years old if you just take this pill. Would you take that pill? Probably not. But let's just swap that homeless person with now a doctor who's one of the world's most sought after doctors in aging. And he said to you, he walks up to you in the street and says, if you take this pill, you will live to 100 years old. Who are you more likely to believe in that scenario? Would you believe the homeless person or would you believe the doctor? If you had to take the pill in one scenario, whose scenario would you do it in? Well, I can hear you all saying you would most likely do it in the doctor's scenario. And the reason why is the doctor is the authority. So you are more likely to comply with whatever he says and whatever suggestion he makes, right? Now, let's paint out a slightly different scenario. Let's say you meet up with your friend, and it can be any of your friends, even if they're a money-savvy friend, and your friend says to you, hey, if you take this 6-week course here that I've created, in 6 weeks' time, you'll be a millionaire if you follow all the action steps in it, okay? Is that believable? I don't know. But now let's compare it with if you're in a conversation with Elon Musk and he says, hey, I've created this course for you. In 6 weeks' time, if you take this course and invest the time and energy in this course and take the action steps, in 6 weeks' time, you'll be a millionaire. Who are you more likely to believe in each of those scenarios? Well, actually, regardless of what you think about Elon Musk, some people hate him, some people love him, you would no doubt follow and comply with Elon Musk because he is an authority and has made $1 million before, right? And not only has he made $1 million, he's made $1 billion, so he can do it again and again and again. You would take his course. You would probably do every single action step in that course, no matter how much effort it took you, because he's an authority figure and we comply with authority figures. Now, a lot of people, what they forget with authority bias, which is what I'm teaching you about right now, is that it is domain specific. So what that means is if you were walking down the street and you bumped into a doctor who said, hey, I can give you this pill and you will live to 100 years old, versus Elon Musk telling you if you take this pill, you will live to 100 years old, you're still more likely to follow the doctor because the doctor is the authority in that subject. And vice versa for, the 6-week course to become a millionaire. You'd most likely take Elon Musk's advice there rather than the doctor. Even though that both of them are authorities in different domains, you would listen to the person who is an authority in the domain that you're specifically dealing with right at that point, right? That's how authority bias actually works, okay? So how does this work in day-to-day life? If you have a website, you're trying to, sell more on it, and you want it to convert more, have you got any authority symbols on there? Have you got any well-known clients that you've worked with? Have you got any training which you can put on there, which you've taken from big, well-known people? Have you got any regulatory bodies that you work with? Maybe it's a government body. Maybe it is, some sort of official guidelines that you need to follow, right? Like in the UK for our, guidance on money and things like this, we need to comply with something called the FCA guidelines, which basically means like we have the Financial Conduct Authority. We are regulated by them, right? That's a principle of authority there. Now that's just business. If you're speaking to someone in a conversation, and you're either, selling to them, or maybe you're meeting new connections, or you're doing a job interview, can you sprinkle in little hints that you have authority on the area that you're talking about? See how the person reacts to it. I've reacted to a lot of different influencer videos where they do this live to you. And granted, it's in more of a business, perspective. But if you are networking with someone and you potentially want them to be your business partner, you might want to let them know how much authority you have in the industry that you work in. So you could say, I've been in this industry for 6 years. I know all the top industry leaders in there, if that's true to you, of course. But basically, this is a very easy way of creating authority for yourself, just out of thin air, right? This is persuasion. And if it's used ethically, and if it helps the other person get to good outcomes with their life, and it actually works for them, you're not persuading them and leading them down a path, then why not do that, right? So let's flip back to my example, which I talked about at the start, with the guy who's a few levels up ignoring me. What happened in that scenario? Now you know what I've just taught you about authority. Well, basically, I hadn't established authority with this guy. This guy didn't view me as an authority figure at all. In fact, just a few years before that, I actually reached out to him and happened to chat to him for some career advice. So he saw me as a person that he was naturally higher status than, that naturally had more authority. And unfortunately, sometimes people just treat you as they kind of see you. Not everyone does, by the way. If somebody has a higher authority than you, they're not always going to treat you badly. But in this scenario, he didn't have the time to give to the low authority guy. But the time he was saving was then spent on a person who had higher authority than him. So he was trying to be likable to that person who was a few levels above him, because there might be some sort of incentive for him to do that. He might get a promotion in the future, but he wasn't going to waste that time, that valuable time, on a person who he had authority over, because he wouldn't get anything out of it. Interesting how life works. So that is example number one there. That is authority bias. I was going to actually include studies about where these original biases, came from in this video, or at least in one of my videos. But unless you guys actually request it, I'm not sure whether to do that, because I think some of you, the people who have good attention spans, right, who are really interested in this stuff will watch that video, but generally most of the population, they won't watch the video of the initial study. I find it fascinating, by the way, because I'm interested in this area. But if you guys want to see me talk about some of the actual studies, one of these studies, they actually encouraged people to kill other people, right? It's pretty crazy stuff. If you want to see me talk about some of these studies, the original studies, let me know in the comments. But in the meantime, let's get to persuasion principle number 2. I've just got my notes just in front of me here. So this persuasion principle is called social proof. And to paint the idea of social proof, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. So in 2013, my friend told me that I should buy Bitcoin. And he said that he's bought a bunch of Bitcoin. It was only $13 at the time, right? And he didn't just tell me, he insisted every single time I saw him, every time we went out for drinks, he would bore me to death with, Rob, you got to buy Bitcoin. Rob, you got to buy Bitcoin. Oh, my friend's been telling me all about this Bitcoin. I bought it. Yeah, you need to buy it as well. And he wouldn't drop it at all, right? I just thought it was so boring and I didn't listen to him, right? In 2017, 4 years later, everyone was talking about Bitcoin. The media were talking about it. All my friends and family were talking about it. Everyone had bought a little bit, right? And there were tons of YouTube channels popping up all over the place, all talking about why you should buy Bitcoin. And then finally, at the end of 2017, I was like, you know what? These guys are right. And I bought into Bitcoin when it was like 20K. Then immediately, as soon as I bought into it, it started to decline. It turned January 2018 and it started to decline like crazy, and I lost loads of money. I'll tell you a little bit about what happened in a minute, but I'm going to tell you more about what social proof is. And social proof is the tendency for humans to copy what other humans do. So we look to what a group does in general, because it's baked into our psychology. It's from evolutionary times. We move in herds. We look at the behavior of other human beings and we copy that behavior, because that behavior is most likely the right thing to do because the group has decided on it, right? So what does social proof look like in marketing? Let me show you an example. I want you to pretend that you are out there shopping for face cream, right? You're just looking for some sort of face cream, and you could be getting it for a friend, you could be getting it for yourself, whatever, right? But you come across these 2 different sorts of face creams. You find them on Amazon, right? And face cream A here has 1-star review and 2 ratings. And face cream B here has 4.9-star reviews, 3,703 ratings, and 5,000 people who bought in the last month. Which face cream are you going to go for? Pick it in your head. I'll give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I think, and I predict, that you've picked face cream B. And the reason why is because you just experienced a cognitive bias called social proof, in which people base their choices on what others choose. This helps people feel secure and reduce the risk of their choice. Now, if we think about this logically, there is nothing different between face cream A and face cream B. They're both exactly the same. But you picked face cream B because it was social proofed more. Now, I just gave you a quick example of how that can be used in marketing, but truth be told, that's not the only way. There is 1,000,001 ways, and it doesn't just have to be used in marketing, doesn't have to be used in just sales either. It can be used in your personal life as well. So for instance, if you were gonna just use that in sales or marketing, of course you can use customer reviews, which you've got there, customer testimonials. You can use case studies demonstrating how people have changed based on, your solution, whatever you're offering, right? But in a personal life as well, if you are struggling to invite your friends to a place and get them to say yes, right? Rather than say, do you want to come with me to X, Y, and Z this weekend? You say to them, hey, me and a bunch of others are going to X, Y, and Z this weekend. Do you want to come? You see how that's the same sentence, but you've just positioned it in a way which has social proofed it, and now they're going to want to follow the crowd. There's a million different examples like that, guys. But social proof, again, is a great way to persuade people, ethically, of course, in a way which makes them want to follow the group. Because we're all human, we all just want to fit within the group, the hierarchy, and see what other people are doing before we decide what we want to do, what actions we want to take. So let's go back to the story that I was talking about. My friend was trying to, for years, persuade me to buy Bitcoin. I didn't listen until I was social proofed enough, or until I had seen enough social proof to take action. I ignored when it was just him talking about it. I completely ignored him, no matter how much he insisted. What I needed was social proof. And I needed to see the media talking about it. I needed to see friends, family, various different sources talking about a YouTube channel before I decided to take action myself. But of course, I knew nothing about any sort of crypto back then. And when everyone starts to get on it is when the price starts to go down, because people start to sell, right? There's crashes start to happen there. So if that social proof then basically worked in reverse for my best interest, then I couldn't take action until I'd seen other people do it, which by that point it was too late because I lost my money straight away. Okay, so the third powerful persuasion principle is something called the commitment and consistency principle. And what that means is you have a tendency to stick to your commitments and act consistently with your past actions and beliefs. So if you have adopted a belief in the past, you are more likely to act in accordance with that belief, even if that's a relatively new belief, right? You are more likely to, right? So I'll give you an example of what happened to me a few years ago. So when I live in a city, when I am walking down the street, there's always salespeople in the street. And I was walking down this street one day, and as I was walking down, I am very good at ducking and dodging the salespeople, because I'm like, I don't want to get dragged into conversation. I'm busy, bro. Like, leave me alone. Let me get on with my day. Well, unfortunately, sometimes I get caught by one of the salespeople. And this salesperson on the day caught me. As I was walking past him, he showed me a picture of this little dog. And he said to me, as he was showing me this picture, "Why do you think people abuse dogs like this?" And it stopped me in my tracks because I was like a little bit surprised. Good pattern break, by the way. And I said to him, I don't know, maybe because they're just bad humans. And he replied, "You're absolutely right, which is why we're doing everything possible to support these defenseless animals." And then he went on to tell me about basically how some of these dogs, they take these dogs, it's like an animal shelter, they take these dogs from like abusive animal homes and keep them in kennels and look after them and nurture them with, all this love and shower them with affection and everything like this. And they basically can't keep these animals forever. They have a time limit to give these animals away. Otherwise, unfortunately, these animals get put down because there's just too many animals out there. And he explained this to me, and I was like so emotionally impacted by this. If you know me, like I'm a very logical person. I don't get emotional about this. But like, I thought to myself afterwards, damn, that was a great close, because I ended up giving like some money to this guy as like a monthly subscription for this charity, right, to help them out. And I thought to myself afterwards, damn, right, you really got me on emotion there. That was very good. But looking back now, knowing what I know about persuasion, he actually used the commitment and consistency principle. And he got me straight away to commit to the fact that there's some terrible humans out there who don't look after animals at all. And he asked me the very question of, why do you think people abuse dogs like this, while showing me a picture? Which led me to say, because I think there's some terrible human beings out there. And by doing that, the subtext is I've associated myself as not a terrible human being. I've looked at other people and been like, they're terrible human beings. And then he was like, yes, that's exactly right. They are terrible out there, which is why we are doing everything we can to support these animals. Will you support them as well? I've just agreed that I'm not a terrible human being. So he got me on the consistency and commitment principle, because I essentially like boxed myself into an identity. And this all happened very fast. So that's an example of where I was closed on some business. Even though it was only small business, it still worked on me. It happened very quick, probably in the space of 40 seconds. I went from a person who never, ever, ever wants to speak to a salesperson. And when I do, I get straight out of that conversation because I'm like, I just don't have time for this, to a person who actually signed up to a monthly dog subscription, which I think I'm actually still paying at this moment, now I think about it. So that is how powerful it can be. Now, how can this be used in other scenarios? That one's for business, but how can it be used in more personal examples? If you want to get fit and in shape, what do most people do who want to get fit and in shape? They either do some sort of workout at home or they sign up to a gym that they never ever use. How could you use commitment and consistency to get yourself to commit to, getting in shape, right? You could sign up to a gym membership, commit to it. You could then tell your friends about it, make a public commitment. And because you've made this public commitment, and you've spoke to your friends about it, you're going to feel compelled to then actually start going to the gym and align it with your actions and the identity that you've now adopted. Once we commit to something, we strive to then act consistently on it, okay? But how could you, for instance, if you're trying to get friends out the house again, we talked about how you can social proof going out with your friends if you're struggling to get them out. I know that is a real problem after the last few years of social isolation for a lot of people. So how can you get your friends to come out? You say, hey, look, do you want to have fun this weekend or not? Yeah, of course I want to have fun. Okay, well, then why don't you come out with me, X, Y, and Z? We're going to go and do blah, 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 blah. You've got a person to commit to the idea that they want to have fun, right? And this works in all sorts of different scenarios. These guys are very, very powerful persuasion principles. And I've gave you basically just the tip of the iceberg here in terms of what, you can do to, persuade people ethically on things which are only going to benefit for them. There is a term in the pickup community, if you guys have heard of The Game, Neil Strauss, Mystery, all those guys, Owen Cook, there is something which is really, really a good principle in that community. And it's that if you speak to someone or interact with someone, you leave them better off or the same as when they first met you, okay? So when you're using persuasion, that is a great rule of thumb to leave the person you're trying to persuade, whether you're trying to help a business, whether you're trying to persuade them, for whatever reason, you leave them in a position either the same or better off than when they first met you. So that is your guiding principle. If you're persuading people, it always has to be within their best interest as well. That's how you keep things ethically. You don't just do it to line your pocket, but you do it if there's an actual solution out there which may help them. If you're selling, for instance, or, if you think your friend is starting to, go into themselves a little bit, becoming very introverted, becoming a bit withdrawn, you might want to use some of these persuasion principles to get them out of the house to help them, right? Everything is in the frame of helping them or helping yourself, as we gave you that gym example there. So there's a lot of information I've chucked at you in this video. If you need to, watch the video again, and I think you will get a lot out of it. If you enjoyed this type of content where I talk a bit more about technical details rather than just reacting to people, let me know, because I enjoy talking about this stuff as well. Okay, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Take it easy, leave me a comment, and see you soon.